Please stand for the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening. Welcome to the Planning Board meeting of October 23rd, 2024. First on the agenda for resolution is Vaughn, 75 Wixon Pond Road. Jack, since you also have number 6, we're going to do number 1 on the agenda, and then we'll do number 6 afterwards.
Thank you.
You can depart. I don't believe Mike had any comments. Rich?
So after much hemming and hawing, we finally got a bond given to us. There are still a couple of minor comments that need to be looked at, but this is good for the resolution.
And you have the resolution, Mr. Chairman. This is a regrading plan approval.
Any comments from the board? We've discussed this before. Anything new come up? The board wants to discuss? If not, I need a motion to adopt a regrading resolution.
Weren't we going to confirm that the soil samples were submitted and were okay, acceptable?
Yep, Rich has that information.
Rich has that. The other,
It's in the file.
there's another regrading application that we discussed at the last meeting, and Rich and I are going to go tour that property actually tomorrow.
Right, we have a site visit at 1:30 or 2 tomorrow
Yeah.
to look at that one.
Yeah.
So this one was good, and so was the other one for that matter, soil-wise, but yes.
Yeah, but the other one, I had some questions when the neighbor spoke about a midnight delivery of soil.
Correct.
Yeah. Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion, I'll move the resolution of the Planning Board of the Town of Carmel, number 24-21, February 8th, 2024, tax map number 65.9-1-15, Vaughn, 75 Wixon Pond Road, regrading plan.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Just so the board knows, Mike and I talked about it, we gave the applicant permission to start haying and seeding ahead of, so he could start getting it with this great weather we've had. So just so you know, that's been moved forward on this.
Great, thank you. Let's jump ahead to 6 Fry Subdivision, 79 Secor Road.
That's a two-lot subdivision that you've heard before.
I'm sorry, Jack, I can't really hear you that well.
Okay. It's a two-lot subdivision, or kind of a lot line adjustment. We're going back and forth about that. And the owner has decided that he's going to go along with the consultants and pay the fee for the direct fee at $8,400 a lot, $17,000. And we want to schedule a public hearing.
Rich, any questions on number 6? I'll jump back.
Applicant has noted all referrals and permits that are needed, and they've provided the SWIP. All applicant states all work will be out of the buffer. I think we're pretty good to move forward with this right now.
Mike, we combined number 1 and number 6 because Jack had them both. Number 6 is the Fry Subdivision, 79 Secor Road.
Just remove the note that the variances require pre-existing non-conforming. That word does not belong on that zoning table.
Okay.
Pre-existing non-conforming would imply that it's legal and you didn't do anything. And the variances were granted, and they are noted on the plat, so all my comments have been addressed.
The only other thing I have to add, applicant noted the need for open space that will be discussed with the planning and town boards. So I don't know, Jack, if you're ready to discuss that. In lieu of land set aside for open space, a recreation fee will be determined by the town board. So I don't know where we are with that, Jack, well, after all the comments are done.
Yeah, there's a large, this is the existing house, this is the proposed house and the septic outside of the buffer, and they added this other lot that he owned to this lot to get rid of a couple of variances. This whole area here can be considered the, what'd you call it?
Recreation, but then you need to show that on the plat, label it recreation, and then we have to do the calculations for the lots, make sure you meet all the requirements of zoning.
Right, we'll talk to you about it.
Please.
I'll talk to you about it. And
I don't think Mr. Fry was opposed to paying the recreation fees, to be honest with you.
oh, no, he's going to pay recreation fees, but that,
It's an or, not an and.
oh, all right. Oh, wait a minute.
It says you shall give land or pay the fee in lieu of.
Give land to the town, or just
Correct.
give it up as a?
Give land to the town usable for recreation purposes. And if there is no land, you can pay the fee. We allow people to pay the fees, which we've been doing for 30 years that I know of.
I'll talk to Scott about it. I mean,
He was okay with the rec fees when I spoke to him the other day, because he was confused about the houses. There's already houses there,
Yeah.
and he thought that he wouldn't have to pay on the existing houses. The answer is yes, you do. The code says any lot shown on a plat, not new houses shown on a plat. So all lots have to pay a rec fee.
okay, so let's schedule the public hearing, please, and then we'll do something about the land, open space.
Comments from the board?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, you forgot me.
Yeah, I didn't think you had any comments at you.
So we don't, I just want to follow up on Mike. So the decision is actually yours to recommend to the town board with respect to whether or not it's parkland or the rec fee. The land needs to be evaluated, if he's donating the land, to determine if it's suitable for a public park. This isn't just open space on his property, it's public parkland. That would be an unusually configured public park.
Yeah.
What would it be used for? So that decision is yours to make, whether it should be a park or the open space fee. In this case, my opinion is that's not a suitable piece of parkland. So it would be a situation where
more
you'd be
sense, yeah.
telling the board to set the rec fee.
But there is also a lot of zoning board issues here.
It has to go to the zoning board.
And
Right.
if it
So
goes to
the
zoning board-
acquisition of that rear parcel was done to minimize variances. It wasn't done to provide parkland. He wasn't adding that for the parkland issue.
But Scott is willing to pay the two rec fees, so let's just leave it at that. Then we'll have the public hearing
Let's
on
make-
that.
Just make that part of the documentation, and that,
Yeah.
what's it, 17,000?
It's, I think it's 8,500
Yeah,
apiece.
just,
Yeah.
17,000.
let's make that part of the document. I'm okay with sending this to the zoning board, as long as it comes back to us nice and clean, as I mentioned with the.
No, we did the zoning board already.
They have their variances.
They got the variances, and it's noted on the
plan.
plan.
Okay, that's why I was saying it was more of a variance.
So we can schedule a public hearing, and we can
Yeah.
go with the premise that the rec fees will be paid on the property.
Right.
So the rec fees are 17,585 for each.
That's correct.
And that's set by code. That's not an arbitrary number. It's a code requirement.
But if we schedule, personally, I'd like to hear from the public on this, and if we hear from the public, we still have an option to do as we see fit.
Just the one.
Any other thoughts? Otherwise, we need a motion to schedule a public hearing.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to schedule a public hearing.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very
Thanks.
much.
Just clean it up a little bit, Jack, and then we'll be ready for the public hearing.
Yeah, I'll talk to Mike.
Thank you. We're going back to number 2 on the agenda, Lamano Auto Body, 255 Route 6. Mike?
I did not have any comments on this. They got their variance, oh, no, wait. Yeah, everything is all good on Lamana.
Rich?
Yeah, I take it back what I said on the first one with the resolution. It was this one. After much hemming and hawing, we received a performance bond number from the applicant's engineer. So that has been resolved finally. There are still some minor comments that need to be addressed, but this can certainly be moved forward as a resolution.
And Pat?
And all of that's included in the resolution, Mr. Chairman. Mike did have one comment, which is it's Lamana, not Limana. So there's a typo in the introductory paragraph.
It is Lamana, right? Lamanna?
Correct.
Yep.
You've been up here a few times by now, but I think it's a good project. Any comments from the board? I know we've seen this several occasions.
That looks good.
We need a motion to adopt the site plan resolution.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a resolution of the Planning Board of the Town of Carmel, number 24-20, October 23, 2024, tax map number 86.7-1 25-1-37, La Mana with all A's, auto body final site plan approval.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Very nice job with this.
Thank you, guys. Have a good night.
You too.
Next on the agenda is 728 Route 6 LLC. Mike, I believe you had some comments on this?
I do. It's basically the same comments as last time. Use variance is required from the ZBA. The variance was granted for parking back in the 70s or 80s for the Old Lantern Pub. They have more than enough parking when it comes, if you use the variance. Does the planning board need to declare lead agency before referring to the ZBA? It's a use variance. I think you said no for multifamily, correct? But what about mixed use? And just clean up the property. There were a few things on the property. I spoke to Mike the other day. He cleaned up most of it. There's a little bit more, but it's looking better.
Good, good. Rich?
So the referrals to Mahopac Fire Department, DEP, Department of Planning for county, and Department DOH for county. DEP is for wastewater flows, DOH is for well and public water. They provided, they have to contact the DEP yet. They've indicated that they would be contacting the DEP. They need to do that yet to find out if it's sufficient for them to tap into or add that additional flow. The one thing that that we need to talk about, there was some questions about the well and the capacities and whatnot. So this is quoted from Joe Paravati from the county. There appears to be some confusion about the property. Putnam County Department of Health hasn't approved anything. All we did was reconfirm through New York State DOH that the existing public water supply classification, transient non-community public water supply, is the same with the addition of 3 two-bedroom apartments. A licensed engineer, I assume Jack, now needs to evaluate the existing public water supply to see if an upgrade is required due to the increase in flow. We'll need to have an evaluation be submitted, and if upgrade is needed, a public water service improvement application is required. So outside of that, there's no public improvements, according to what Joel has written to us, and we had talked about the water on the adjacent property. It is not theirs, even though it happened when they put a pole in for this property, it was still on somebody else's property. So that's the big thing, is the water and the capacity of that well system for these new apartments.
Thank you. Pat?
So the only thing I would say, Mr. Chairman, is the use variance is the big issue with this. Getting them to the zoning board is the necessary next step. However, if there is a water issue that would prevent this from happening in one way or another, you should bear that in mind in making the referral.
And PWS is private water supply. I said public about 20 times. I do apologize.
He has a well out there, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, just to comment on the comments, obviously Mike has indicated the referral to the zoning board. Obviously, we have no problem with that. Also, with regard to Rich's comments, we already have sent a letter to the New York City DEP with regard to the sewer, because he's tied into the sewer across the street here. And based on my comment, my conversation with him, it looks like, but we want to get it in writing, obviously, he looks like there is enough capacity to add the 3 apartments, but as both Rich and Pat said, we have to get that in writing. With regard to the well itself, I spoke with Joe Paravati, who's the head of the the Putnam County Health Department, and he indicated what he wants done and what we should do with testing the well to make sure that there's adequate capacity, and we will be doing that. But as Mike said, right now, we need the use variance, otherwise we haven't got a project.
Didn't we look at this a while ago? Wasn't there also a line of sight coming out of the driveway? Was that obviously that was revised?
Yeah, we discussed this a while ago. It was, we weren't comfortable with when they park in front of there, in front of the, on Route 6. If you're
Right.
pulling out of the exit, you cannot see around that. So I think that you were saying that you'd like to see some no parking or something right in front of it.
No parking on Route 6, you mean? Oh, absolutely.
Just in that little section,
Yeah.
because if you're trying to cross over, it could be a little dangerous.
No, absolutely.
Board comments from the board?
Oh, also, one thing we had discussed with with the consultants. There is a problem on the adjacent property, which I think is owned by the town now. Mr. Gu is willing to grant an easement so that that the town can pipe from the property next door, from the town property, and tie into a catch basin in front of Mike's property. So we will be very happy to.
Is the property next door the rink?
Yeah, the rink.
Yes, the
It's
rink.
the hockey rink,
The
yeah.
hockey rink.
There's a water outcrops through the ground, or it comes right out of the ground, and we don't, ever since they put the pole in. But again, it's not on Mr. Gu's property, it's on the adjacent property, so he's saying that he wouldn't mind putting a drain into the catch basin that would cut a corner of his property.
Right
I
on,
believe, right?
yeah, on Route 6. So we would grant the town an easement to provide that and stop that water from coming out of the ground.
Maybe you should provide an easement on the map and then have Joe look at it, make sure it looks good.
Of course.
Sound good?
Any comments from the board?
A question. Obviously, Mike, as per your memo, it's not a permitted use to put those apartments above these buildings
Yeah, we don't allow mixed uses in the town of Carmel at this time.
at this time.
However,
However,
we are looking at, I guess it's still a draft of the new code. We actually, not that we encourage, but we allow apartments above commercial properties.
Well, we have them all over town.
Right.
So
Yeah,
that's,
exactly.
that was my next step is,
Exactly.
and they've gotten variances, people have done it up in Carmel, all over, I mean, it's been going on for a while now.
So that's the basis for the zoning board to grant the relief? That code is not in place at the moment, so
We,
it's.
we do feel there's a need for rentals in the town.
Affordable rentals.
Yes,
Affordable rentals, yeah.
yes.
I mean, we're kind of caught between a rock and a hard place. We need to see if we have capacity. That's one. We need to see if a variance would be granted, which it very possibly could. So it's, which avenue do we go first? Do we go to the,
Joel has told you he believes there's capacity. Rich has told you that he believes there's capacity, and so that's pretty critical. You wouldn't want to send to the zoning board to get a use variance for something they can't build.
so Rich, what do we need from the applicant to?
Well, so again, it could go to the zoning board, get the use variance, but the planning board could deny it because it doesn't have capacity for the water, right?
That's
So,
where I'm-
so
that's
that's,
where
your
I'm
rock
going
in the hard
with
place is a
here.
decision you guys have to make. Send them to zoning, see if they get the variance, and then they can, Joel is telling you that he has it, but he really has to hire an engineer that does water work and then get that approved through the county. It doesn't come through the engineering department, it goes through the county, and the county's gonna, have to figure that out with them, so.
That's
I mean,
correct.
Joel,
So-
the applicant's willing to do that?
Well, oh, he is willing to do all that, but I think, as Pat said, and I think even Rich said, if we don't get the variance, why go through all that process and
Understood,
waste our
but
money?
if you were.
But
to
in
get
turn,
the
if you don't get the
variance-
water, why go through the variance?
Well-
It's one or the other, that's what
Well,
Rich is.
but at least, I mean, the use variance is something that's a little bit more difficult to.
Well, it's a
there's
zoning
criteria.
board fee versus a capacity fee is what you have to weigh out, would be my suggestion, but.
Well, the zoning board fee is $200, $400, I'm sorry. It's 500?
Is
Whatever.
there any suspicion or suggestion that he does not have capacity? Or you
I'm not,
just
I'm
don't
not,
know?
I'm not that type of
Okay.
engineer, so I
So-
can't give you that. It
Yeah.
goes to the county. They have to hire somebody who can do it. They have to do special testing for it. I mean, there are things that need to be done
Understood.
to prove that it has the capacity. Right now, it's considered a private water supply, and the state health department has said it can be used for the restaurants and the apartments, at least the way I read what Joe Paravati said. Now, if apartments and the restaurants are all turning on water at the same time, maybe
Yeah.
they don't have capacity.
But you also
They-
must remember that the
Inequality.
previous use of the property was Landon Pub, which had parties and hundreds, several hundred people at a time, so I think.
Potatoes, potatoes,
Let me finish.
so-
Can I finish?
Yeah.
Thank you. So, based on that, I mean, we're obviously going to do the testing, and we have no problem with that. I had a long talk with Mr. Paravati with regard to exactly what he wants to have done. I've already spoken to my contact person at the New York City DEP, and based on a previous project that we went through about a year or two ago, he indicated to me verbally, but we have to get it in writing, that there is additional capacity for the free apartments for the sewers.
Right,
So I
sewer is
think-
not in question right now, water is in question.
Okay.
And the issue is, you have to deal with the county, if you have to upgrade your water system there, right? That's a different set of plans that gets submitted. So again, Maybe you have it, maybe you have to drill a new well. I don't know that answer until you do the test.
Well,
And the board doesn't know that answer, and
we
the
said we're
county
willing to
doesn't
do
know
it.
that answer.
Okay, we don't, that's right, we don't know the answer now, but
Well, I'm
we'll
just
find
telling
out.
that to the board, so.
I'm talking to the board, I believe. And so, anyway, I think at this particular point, let's find out if, in fact, the zoning board is willing to, to have the 3 apartments. And then we'll do all the testing and all the approvals from the County Health Department and the New York City DEP.
Joe, what are these apartments gonna be like? 3 one-bedroom apartments? What are they?
There are 3 two-bedroom apartments.
3-bedroom apartments?
Yes.
And is the entrance from on the side of the building, or where, how do you get?
Yeah, well, actually, if I can flip this around.
So, Mr. Chairman, while he does that, keep in mind that the planning board does have the right, if it chooses to, make a recommendation or comments to the zoning board with respect to this project. So we have, on rare occasion, done that. This may be a project where you wish to do that as well.
It would make sense. It would make sense. Thank you, Joe.
Yeah.
Joe, just grab the mic.
The entrance will be from the-
Joe, would you need the microphone? I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Yeah, so the entrances will be off the side and the rear of the building.
Joe, can you be can you be a little bit more when you're looking at the building, it's on the right, it's on the left, it's...
Yes. It'll be on the, as you're facing it, it'll be on the right-hand side. So looking at the site plan, we're talking about, here's Route 6 over here. This is where the hockey rink is, and this is the old school Board of Education
Yeah.
building. And so this is where the entrance is. This is one-way pattern all the way around, and the entrance would be off the side here.
So one entrance for all 3 apartments?
Yes.
Have you heard anything from the fire department about this?
No, we've submitted it, but we haven't heard anything back from them. But again, as I repeated myself, I think we should find out if, in fact, we have a project.
Rich and Pat, Mike, so when we had the application above the deli, when we wanted to put the church up there, I mean, one of our concerns was the potential for fire and having people with one point of ingress and egress. Do we have similar concerns here? It's above a restaurant, above, you know,
Same concern.
I mean, so what is the remedy then?
The remedy is to make sure they build it to the New York State Building Code. So they'll have to have alarm systems, they may have to have fire separation, they may have to double sheetrock the ceilings. There's a whole bunch of different things that'll come into play here that Joel's gonna have to show us on the plans to get the fire separation between and to get egress from each unit that is only an X amount of distance of travel from door to exit.
As building code issues, that's Mike's bailiwick. You wouldn't ordinarily get into that as a condition. The condition would be comply with the state building code. How he does it is entirely up to Mike. I
And
just
Joel
wanted
should be
to
doing
bring-
that now, so that he knows down the road when he comes for a building permit. I don't say, well, you don't have, it's 200 feet and you can only have 190, and now he has to put a second staircase in and put something out there and come back to the planning board for another application. So he
No.
should be doing all this before.
Exactly.
Wasn't
And,
there,
with regard to the building code, the separation distance, separation between the first floor and the apartments will have to, as Mark said, double sheetrock, so it'll have at least a 1+ hour rating, God forbid if there's any emergency or fire. And also, we're going to try to work out a second means of egress, which I think would be very, obviously, very acceptable.
wasn't there ingress or egress on both sides of the building? There was a
Yes,
lobby.
yes.
So there are two entrances and
Yes,
exits now?
Yeah, both sides, that's correct. This would be the main entrance, but there's a second
In
means
the
of
little
egress.
vestibule?
I'm sorry?
There's a vestibule on the right side that you can go upstairs or you can go into the restaurant, right?
Correct.
So it's gonna be another entrance to the apartments?
Yes, both sides.
Oh,
So there is 2.
So will it be a centralized hallway up there? I don't recall, I don't remember seeing.
No, there'll be direct entrance to the apartments, not necessarily a hallway that goes from apartment to apartment.
Okay.
But they'll obviously have to meet the code, fire code and so on, and we will do all that.
If you can, you may want to do what I just said and try to put a hallway from right door to left door, and then have the apartments off it, so there's two
Well-
options to go out if they can.
Yeah, the floor plans aren't 100% set in stone yet, and we will look at that, and if it makes sense to have a central hallway, so you can have an entrance on the right or entrance on the left.
Well, it changes your other requirements.
Yeah, I know.
So if you get two means of egress, you can maybe lose something else that's required, like you may only need an hour rating between the building, and that's easier than putting up the 2-hour whole thing. It just, there's ways to do it.
Yeah, yes, absolutely. So, again, we'd appreciate referral.
Other questions for Joel?
Do the restaurants have a central fire alarm system
Do you have a central fire alarm system in the restaurants?
that are interconnected
Mike.
with each other? I may be going down a road where it's not required, but I want to be clear. If there's a fire that goes off downstairs, what I'm getting at is I want the upstairs apartments to have that's the same system.
This is another one of those things that if they don't have it and it's required, they're gonna have to put it in.
Right.
But let's find out if they have one. I don't know what it is.
Well, right now, one of the restaurants does have the fire alarm system, so, we'll check. If we have to do it to the other two, we'll do it.
That's not what you asked for, that's not.
Well, should you get your variances and the project goes forward, and only if this is part of the building code, Joel, is I would expect those 3 apartments and all the restaurants to
Oh.
have their own zones and be on a central system.
Interconnected systems is what it's
Yes.
saying. So if there's a fire in the restaurant, it rings upstairs and tells everybody to get out.
Okay.
Even if it's the hallway.
Yes.
At least it's the hallway. It doesn't have to be inside the unit, so, if somebody burns a toast, you don't have to kick everybody out of a restaurant, but
Okay, no, we understand that.
Other thoughts from the board? So, personally, I'm okay denying to the ZBA, but I'm questioning it a little bit because there are a lot of open issues. I'm okay with denying it to the ZBA, with, as Joe mentioned, telling the ZBA, noting that we're pending water capacity, as well as all other items we just discussed here, knowing that's gonna come back to us, and if everything's not documented properly, because these are pretty important, as Anthony mentioned, putting apartments above restaurants, we wanna be very careful with it. Mike can be very involved with that. I'm not sure what the board feels about Senator, as soon as we get it back to us, there's several open things that I'm still a little concerned with.
Yeah, I think from a practical point of view.
Also, Mr. Chairman, it would seem to me, I'm sorry.
I think from a practical point of view, sending it to the ZBA seems like a path of least resistance right now, but subject to all the things that we've discussed.
Based on their response, and
Yeah.
then go from there.
Are you okay with
No,
that?
I agree.
Yeah, no, makes sense.
All right, someone want to make a motion? Nick, you want to make a motion to deny to the ZBA?
I'll make a motion, Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to deny this project to the Zoning Board of Appeals.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Oh, yes, subject to the comments. There's several, one mainly being the water capacity.
I would
You got
hope,
that? Thanks.
by the time we get to the zoning board and come back to this board, I believe hopefully we'll have a lot of the answers with regard to sewer and water.
Yes. Otherwise, you're just going to
It's just gonna
sit. Thanks, Joe.
Thank you very much, and have a happy Halloween.
Yes, thank you. Next on the agenda is Viola Water. Welcome back. Mike, you have comments, I believe?
I do. Provide a detail of the buffer. They say that it's natural trees, and I believe them. I just want to know what's there. Is it thick enough that it's not something that you're going to see from the road? Maybe a few pictures, maybe, show the board why you don't need the additional landscape buffer that you already have the thing there. Referral to the ECB, Fire Department, Putnam County Department of Health are required by code. My previous comment about lot depth and width was incorrect. Provide the lot depth and width lines on the plat. I didn't see them. I don't know if you just gave me the measurements, but I need the actual lines drawn on there. They have to stay fully within the lot, and it looked like when I tried to do them, they exited and re-entered a lot, so that's, if you can do it, that's great. But otherwise, you're gonna need a variance for that. Area variance is required from the lot area, and all the work on the adjacent property for the driveway easement was done without approval from the ECB, wetland inspector of the building department. When the Supreme Court so ordered the stipulation of settlement, it did not consider the New York State MS4 requirements. The MS4 requirements must be addressed at this time. So that area that they disturbed already will be added to the area they're gonna disturb, and that's when we'll determine how much remediation, or is that the word, that they're gonna have to do.
Thanks, Mike. Rich?
So to follow up on what Mike was saying, referrals, the applicant has noted all the referrals, has noted all the permits, which is the DEC, stormwater and wetlands, DOH for water, well and treatment system, highway, you're gonna need a work permit for accessing Archer Road, ECB for wetlands. The disturbance was listed as 0.84 acres, and they have provided the stormwater pollution prevention plan. A couple of things, follow up on what Mike says. It has to include all the disturbance that has been done, whether it's the adjacent parcel or just the little bubble you're talking with. So all the work that has been done needs to be incorporated in that, and if it's over that 1 acre threshold, you do need to provide permanent stormwater controls. The SWIP needs to also be updated as outlined in my memo. There's a whole bunch of different stuff in there that is required as part of the MS4 permitting that needs to be in there. And you should also note that, come January of '25, there's gonna be a new construction permit promulgated. You're gonna have to meet those criteria, so you may wanna look at those moving forward as you go forward. So you did provide a graphic representation of vehicles, but you have to show the type of vehicles accessing the site. It must include emergency vehicles. It just showed kind of a regular truck going in there. What happens if there's a fire at the building? What happens if there's other issues in the back over there? How is that fire truck gonna maneuver in there? You need to provide calculations for the site distances. You provided a driveway profile. Just provide a little more detail throughout, because you gave me at the front end and the back end, but not in the middle. Provide that information, because if you're over 15%, you're gonna have to pave it. There are wetlands maps and mapping flags indicated on the drawing. It's hard to make them out on the various drawings you provided. It says there's a wetland here, and it's hard to follow those lines. Either call them out in a blue color, or have a separate file that shows the wetland limits. A referral to the ECB, a lighting plan should be provided, landscaping plan was provided. There are 8 trees that will be planted. Additional landscaping around the building should probably be considered. A note should be added to the drawing, which is a standard note, that it should be installed per section 142 of the town code. Excuse me. No electrical upgrades are anticipated. Right now it's serviced by overhead wires. We've done all this work. Why are we not burying the electrical service at this time? You have a whole new roadway in there. You could put a trench in there and bury it to avoid the whole issue of, power failure, even though they will have a generator. So that's pretty much it.
Pat?
So just to remind everybody, this is one of the 5 Suez Veolia applications that you saw previously. This one was last before you several years ago. I think it might have been pre-pandemic when this was last before you. So it's been a while before there was litigation that slowed this application down. It's the same as the other ones. It's a PFAS facility. You're very familiar with the issues we've encountered with these in the past. Emergency generators, visual impacts, lighting, and so forth. So they've done a good job of responding. As you heard tonight, some more details are necessary with respect to some of those things. The primary issue from where we left this really is the screening of the facility. So there's some off-site plantings that's been done. There's some landscaping that's been done on the plan. I think we want to get this to a public hearing so we can hear from the neighbors to find out, as we've done on the other applications, precisely where the screening should go, how big should it be, and so forth. And I think that we would benefit from getting that information during the public hearing. But I do think there's probably some additional screening that's going to be necessary for this application.
Before I turn it over to the board, would you like to respond to mostly Rich's comments, but Pat's and Mike's as well? It seems like there's a lot. Actually, I have almost 5 typewritten pages of comments.
Yeah, before I have Ryan Nasher, I'll just introduce myself first of all, and just to echo what the staff is saying. Lino Sharetta, partner of the law firm Blakely Platt and Schmidt, Ryan Nasher, our engineer, Tom Herschel from Creamer, and Maria Stepanova from Veolia. We were last here about, I think it's like probably 3 or 4 years ago, and one of the biggest issues, if I recall, it wasn't me back then, but it was another attorney, but passed away, and one of the biggest issues was ingress and egress to this site. So when they left that meeting, one of the things that I was charged with and Veolia was to get access to that site. And just to give you, just to board some background, I know we provided it for the record, we had to bring an eminent domain proceeding against the neighboring property. That was done back in 2023. Ultimately, we resolved that issue, it was settled, where the court so ordered the access that we show on our plans. We agreed with the neighbor in terms of planting, so it was amicable at the end, but it took almost about a year to get to that point. That's why it took us so long before we were coming back here, because we wanted to make sure that ingress and egress was taken care of. So that is, put a pin on that. We got that resolved. Next is the engineering detail. I'll turn it over to Ryan so he can speak a little bit about that. But again, I just wanted the board, this is part of, as you heard, PFAS treatment. We have mandates that we have to follow. This is one of several wells. I've done several of these for SUOs throughout the region, so it's something we have to do. There's a temporary facility right now. Ultimately, what we like to do is build a 726 square foot GAC, granular activated carbon facility, to treat this water. So I'll turn it over to Ryan just to go through some of those comments. Sure. But thank you, staff, for the comments. We appreciate it. But off to you, Ryan.
Thank you. Once again, Ryan Nasher from Atzel, Nash & Ziegler. We are the engineers and the surveyor. Rich, thank you for all those comments. We looked at it. Just to clarify a few items, the drainage mitigation plan was prepared based on the total disturbance, and that disturbance include the on-site improvement and also for the access road. So in the sweep binder, we create the delineation to show what is the total disturbance, and it came to be 0.83. So when you look at it, it should be in there.
Well, when you say total, you mean on the adjacent property, the neighbor's property where work was done too?
Yeah, any work that's going to be done within the access road of Archer and also the neighboring property and also the improvement on site in the circle, that is total is.
Right, but I thought there was a road going in from the neighbor's property into this, there's some other road that he wanted to put in there that was part of the agreement and settlement?
No, that one we excluded because that was part of the settlement that's going to be on the farmer's responsibility how he's going to do the driveway for his improvement. So we excluded what is going to be because it was not really clear how he's going to do his, it should be on his separate permit.
Are you building it? Is Suez building it?
No, that's going to be a separate for, you're talking about the farmer's driveway access? No, that is not part of the improvement.
Common plan and development.
Yeah, so you said that this is where, so stormwater regulations are what we're talking about right here, right? So there's been a bunch of development that was done, so ordered by a judge, got it, right? So you put in a road, quite a large one, we might add, right? It was done, very little erosion sediment control was put up until we yelled at you, but we got it done, right? Here we are, now there's gonna be more work done. It's a common plan of development as so ordered by a judge, and maybe Joe can chime in and tell me that I'm crazy, but, so you have an overall disturbance that is gonna be more than an acre. That has to be taken into account as part of New York State stormwater regulations. It's that simple. So you can't exclude work that's going to be done by somebody else that was so part of the whole project, I would think. But again,
I would agree with that.
So just so the court understands what the language was in the order, it specifically states that petitioner will design the stormwater controls for the site, which shall be subject to the approval by the town, by the Carmel Town Engineer and the Carmel Planning Board. Okay, so it's not like anybody abdicated
That's
any
pretty clear.
responsibilities here.
Yeah, that's correct.
Private driveway.
If I may,
Well, it's gotta be
Maria
correct. I read it right
Stepanova,
from the order.
Maria Stepanova, Veolia, Rich, you're absolutely correct that when we came to this planning board with this particular project before, we did not know our access, so we considered both through what we call farmers, which is not farmers, but that's what we end up installing, and that's what we will end up upgrading and, in compliance with all the plans and regulations and everything else. And by the way, there is already existing drainage there. It hasn't been vetted design, but it exists in this temporary road. The road through the other side, the terrain is difficult. I don't know if we're legally fully resolved because we were purchasing it from the county, but it would be exuberantly expensive for us to install the road. So unless there is some unforeseen circumstance that we cannot use the road that we have shown on the plan today, that would be the only case why we wouldn't consider building a road there.
But are you doing an additional driveway for the farmer?
Yeah, I can answer that. So we're not. So what
There you
happened?
go.
Right, what
I
happened?
didn't think so.
Yeah, what happened was, just so everyone understands, and again, the reason why we did this is because we had to treat this. So again, I know we did this, with the court approval, but we had to get in there. But when we first brought the petition for eminent domain, we had utilized, was on a map, an old traveled right-of-way that kind of cut through the farmer's property. So that was what we filed with the court. We're saying this is what we want to do because it was already kind of laid out in the survey. It was an old dirt right-of-way that was utilized years ago. But when we filed the papers, and we picked that because we thought that would be the easiest, it's kind of already there. When we filed, the neighbor, who obviously one of the respondents, took great exception to that, goes, you're cutting through my property, can you not go there? So we were only able to have those discussions once we brought the action in court. Once we were going through those discussions, we abandoned that and ultimately settled on what we have before you today. So it was closer to his boundaries property line as opposed to cutting through his property. So we did that in conjunction with the farmer. That's what he wanted us to do. He didn't want us to cut through his property, and we agreed with him. We pushed as close to his property line as we could. We promised him some landscaping. We paid him for the permanent easement. Again, the stipulation was so awarded, but the only road we're talking about is the driveway. It's literally a driveway. It has gravel right now just to gain access to this site. And per day, just so you know, for truck traffic, it's about one vehicle from Veolia per day that utilizes that site. So it's not a traveled right-of-way. It's not, there's not a lot of traffic there. It's really one vehicle from Veolia per day. So that's basically what we're talking about here in terms of the road. So I just wanted you to have the story in terms of when we're talking about driveway, we're not talking about the original that was filed as part of the eminent domain. We're talking about the settlement, and it's actually part of the stipulation where you attach the acquisition map. So,
But you're not putting a second driveway in or doing anything for Naranjo or
Correct.
whatever his name is?
Nope.
That's all.
That's it.
That's on the record.
No other work on the farmer's property is
No.
being performed from his staging
Landscape, we have to
yard.
put 8 green giants, which was what he wanted, which we agreed that we would pay for. But what we did was, he's a landscaper by trade. We're in the water business, so we said, you could plant them, but we'll pay for them. So that's what we agreed per the stipulation. So I believe the number was 8 green giants, right, that we're going to put in.
Do we have a rendering of what this would look like with the 8, what the building looks like with the landscape and?
We could provide that one.
Yeah, I think
Sure.
that would help.
Yeah.
And it is set back there, and again, the facility, I think it's only 25 feet in height, the GAC facility. It's about 726 square feet and 20 feet in height, so and it kind of drops down the grade back there, so you really can't see it, but we'll provide it just to prove that to you, that we can show it to
I think the
you.
rendering would be helpful.
Yep. We'll do
And this
that.
will be their forever driveway? They're keeping this driveway for maintenance and everything?
Yeah, no, it's a permanent easement,
good.
yep.
I just want to make sure it wasn't just for delivery of the...
No, it's permanent, it's to get our trucks back there, treatment, it's permanent.
I'm sorry if this was answered already. Has the fire department reviewed this?
Highway department.
Fire.
Fire department?
Yes.
Not that I know of. I don't
that's something
think
we
they
need
have
to see.
reviewed.
Anthony asked if the fire department has reviewed this.
They've been referred to.
They were referred, I don't know if they did or did not. You guys should check with the
Yeah, I'd like
Rose
to get a response.
and
Yeah,
ask her if any letters came in. If not, you should
right.
contact them, try to get one.
Yeah, I heard from Tom, it was sent to them?
Yeah.
Okay.
Was it? Okay.
We'll follow up, though, but it was sent, though we haven't received a response.
They're just going to
We'll
be
follow up.
interested about driving on that road with their trucks, obviously.
Yeah, I believe the gravel, because we looked at, it does support the weight of the truck.
You know, the way we did the truck turning radius, the dimension came to be smaller, okay? It's about 20 feet, like a pickup truck, like a box truck. We'll provide the emergency access vehicle, and then we'll provide the information to the fire department for the review.
Yep.
And to be
That's fine, it's just the pumper truck with the water is actually really heavy, and I
Sure.
was thinking of springtime sinking down.
I agree, yeah, sure. And few other comment to respond to Rich. The profile for the driveway, we missed to put the slope, but the slope is not exceeding 8%. It's between 6 to 8. So we're going to provide the information.
Just show it on the drawing,
Profile.
that'll be good,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, sure.
Profile,
Let's go
well,
profile.
they did provide a profile, but they missed all the middle of it.
Correct, yeah. We just showed the entrance, which is 3.6%, but the remaining we missed to put in there. We'll provide information. That's not a problem. The mapping is crowded, I agree. We're going to put the color coding. The wetland should be blue and things, so you can really see something better. That's not a problem. The electrical work, I don't believe there's any more electrical work, if I'm not mistaken. If someone could clarify? No. There is no additional electrical work to be provided. So what is shown there, this is what it is going to be.
I was suggesting that it be put underground, so there may not be a plan for additional electrical work. You should probably consider putting it underground to protect the integrity of that system. But again, that's up to the planning board to say yay or nay, and it's up to the applicant to want it or not want it. So-
All right, no problem. Gannett and Fleming, they've been helping us to do this plan. I will talk to them, and I will just forward.
Right, so you're not changing the electrical, so the board understands, they're not changing the electrical usage at the plant, right? You're not upgrading anything?
No.
So they're using the existing lines that are there, so they don't have to put it underground because it's already above ground there. Again, they put in that beautiful big road over there, they could put in a beautiful big trench and bury that beautiful big electrical line,
Well, at the same
but that's
time-
up to the applicant. But you wouldn't have to worry about trees hitting it. You won't have to worry about it on Orchard Road, but that's another story.
I apologize. I need to check what the new plan for the, between the buildings, but the going downhill, it is underground. I don't believe it is above. Because the conduits go down, in fact, on the Colton Road, it's underground, it goes down and it kind of goes underneath, and so I believe it's within our easement. We'll double check and we'll get back to you on that.
Yeah, I thought everything said existing utility, it was above ground, so I could have misread that, so double check
We will
your
double
drawing.
check because thank you very much for the comment. What I don't know off the top of my head is
It
the
is-
new design between the new buildings, but yeah.
No, this is underground, you're right.
But it is underground for the existing one, and we are not going to disturb it.
All right, we'll double check and provide information on the plan, not a problem. And Rich, the stormwater mitigation, we provide the infiltration trench for the access road off Orchard. We didn't do the test hole. We're going to provide the test hole, show that it works. And also we have the on-site improvement retention pond, not too big, it's 2 feet deep.
I
Has
saw
a
that, I'm
spillway,
still
so-
reviewing it right
yeah,
now,
sure.
so.
So, and those designed based on the 2025, even though it's a draft, but we've been using for the updated manual. But when it's get adopted, we're going to change it to 2025. That's not a problem.
There's also a generator on site, correct?
Correct, yes.
Portable or fixed?
It's fixed. Is it fixed? Portable?
Portable.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
So it's just like the other sites where they
Yeah.
shift them around where they need them?
Yeah. Show that on the rendering also, please.
And try to buffer that also, if there's
I-
any noise that comes from it, try to keep it buffered from the
Just gonna
neighbors
say that, yeah.
immediately
Yeah.
adjacent.
That should be screened somewhat also, knowing that you gotta keep the landscape away from the generator, but screened nonetheless. Board comments?
A lot more to do yet.
Yeah.
I think we have the comments.
I would recommend that you sit with Rich and Mike and, you know, it's too soon for a public hearing. I think we would embarrass ourselves if there's a public hearing right now, us not knowing all the answers to the questions. So I think maybe one more turn of the crank, providing the proper documentation to,
With the renter.
In terms of ECB, is that, can we get referred to ECB? before
We could
public
refer
hearing?
that.
think I only have.
Can we
That's
do
a
that?
referral.
I couldn't hear the question, I'm sorry.
Can we go to ECB at least right now without, at this point?
That's probably prudent, yeah, sure.
Okay, that would be helpful, thank you.
So it would be
So we need a mo-
ECB, Fire
do we-
Department, and who else are they gonna?
So we need a motion to refer to the
For the
ECB.
record, we should know.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to refer them to the ECB.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Keep in mind that it won't go any further with the planning board until you address the issues that Mike and Rich pointed out.
Absolutely.
And while it doesn't require the referral, talk to the fire department, so we know what's going on from their side.
Good idea.
And rendering.
And the, yeah, the rendering.
If you don't get somewhere with the fire department, call me and I'll reach out.
Yeah, one more thing. We do need variances as well, minimum lot area, minimum street frontage, in terms, we have to,
I don't know the numbers
I'm
yet.
not-
what?
I don't
I'm
know
not-
the number yet.
Yeah,
Okay.
And I'm not, there are too many open issues to send to the zoning board right now. I'd rather
Okay, so
send-
we'll address those memos, come back here, and then go to ZBA.
I'd rather
Again,
send a more complete package to the ZBA.
that's
I
fine.
don't think you're far away, but we need to do these.
No,
few things.
understood, and we'll do that. We just want to, because, we want to get it permanent as opposed to temporary. We just want to move it as quickly as we can, but we'll meet with staff and get it done.
And we'll do that. Keep in mind, though, there's only one meeting in November, one in December, so get your end of it going.
Okay,
The planning board won't slow you down as long as you have everything.
very good. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Have a good night, thank you.
Next on the agenda is Carmel Residential, 119 Seminary Hill Road. Good evening, Paul. Mike, I believe you had some comments?
There's a sketch plan and a site plan. You don't care? The subdivision must be approved before the site plan, or the lots do not exist as proposed. A variance is required for Lot 2, lot area, 120,000 square feet is required. They have 73,019, and a 46,981 square foot variance is required. The reason for this is they are realigning the lots in the Albano 4, I think it was called, estates, and they are realigning them to do this multifamily development on 3 of the lots, or parts of 3 or 4 of the lots, so.
Thank you, Rich.
So I apologize, there are 2 memos that I wrote. One of them is the sketch subdivision, which I have in front of me. The other one, I named the site plan one, but I included the Archer Well information on there. So you do not have the correct memo there, nor do I have it in front of me. So for the sketch plat, it's the first appearance in front of the planning board. It encompasses the subdivision of a 23.4 acre parcel into 3 lots. It's located on Seminary Hill Road. Referrals to your standard group of folks, DEC, Department, Putnam County DOH, DEP, Town of Carmel Highway, ECB, and Fire Department, Carmel. What they did here, which is what we have a gripe with some others, the application should be a standalone submittal. So what they did is they said, hey, here's our sketch division, but everything else is part of the site plan one. Stand it alone, it should be a standalone document that somebody can pick up and walk away with. Ultimately, a stormwater pollution prevention plan will be needed. Also for the state, for the city, it will most likely be required. The drawing does not contain information regarding areas proposed to be reserved for open space. Providing the EAF for the subdivision, public improvements or stormwater abatement bonds will be needed. Preliminary plat information as identified in Chapter 131 of the regulations. We're just talking about sketch now, right? Not the other one?
That's all I did. I didn't know what you wanted to do.
So the site plan, a bunch of information was provided. They gave an extended or an expanded EIS. Pat will probably touch base on that. I know they provided a separate water and wastewater report that needs to be combed into that expanded EIS, and additional information will be required. We've spoken to the applicant in the past. Most likely, they will have to, we'll have to get escrow put up so that we can review the water, we can review the wastewater. They're gonna have to look at the pump station there to make sure it has sufficient capacity. The roadway, when the town is not taking ownership of any of the stormwater ponds. So that needs to be known from day one. We're not doing that. In speaking with the highway superintendent, it needs to be reviewed. I don't know if he's amenable or not amenable to taking the road as a town road. But the applicant needs to just understand that it may not be a town road, right? So, and any of the cul-de-sacs the cul-de-sac needs to meet our town code, and we don't normally have the flower beds in the middle of it, because if it is a town road and it has to be plowed, they're in the way. But there's no way I could, based on what I've seen, again, I didn't comment on this before, there's no place to push snow. So that needs to be looked at. But again, that will be up to the highway superintendent to review. Those are some of the thoughts I remember from my memo. I apologize for not having it for the board.
Good points.
And,
Thanks,
Mr.
Rich.
Chairman, this is the applicant's first opportunity to present the plan to you. It's a fairly significant plan. As you're hearing from us, we're just beginning to look at the material that was submitted. So what I'd like you to do tonight is designate lead agency and begin the seeker process. So as Rich indicated, they've submitted a long environmental assessment form and supplemental studies dealing with the wetlands, community services and fiscal impacts, traffic, transportation, aesthetic resources, and historic and cultural resources. We're going through those in detail. The decision you will have to make sooner rather than later, once your lead agency designation becomes final, is whether or not we're going toward a neg deck on this or whether or not you need to have a full environmental impact statement. This is a 50-unit subdivision on those 3 lots that are being created, 33 attached townhomes and 17 single-family homes. Significant development. So we need to make sure this material is appropriate and adequate. And as Rich indicated, we may need help with that. For example, you may need to engage your traffic consultant to review the material they've submitted, and we'll recommend if there's others that may be necessary to look at the material. But in terms of detailed, specific comments, it's premature for us to really get into this tonight. Let them make their presentation, let us continue to go through the material that's submitted, and we can move through this project appropriately and systematically.
Thanks, Pat. Not to get ahead of ourselves, but Rich, what do we, and maybe I'm going too far ahead, what do we know about the water in that area? capacity-wise?
You're far ahead of yourself.
Yeah, okay, that's what I
Sorry,
thought.
I'm not being disrespectful.
No, that's why I asked.
I didn't read my second memo. I only did the subdivision one. I didn't know. That's what I meant. I didn't know what you wanted me to do. Should I read it?
Read it out, please.
The subdivision must be approved before the site plan, same as the other comment on the other one. Again, I suggest that the planning board require additional parking for guests. This has always been an issue at our multifamily developments. People have parties, all of a sudden we have people fighting over parking spots. Variance required for distance between buildings, 50 feet is required, they have 20, so a 30-foot variance is needed. Fire department should comment on their ability to turn around at the cul-de-sac. It looks okay to me, but let's make sure that they can do it. Will there be centralized mailboxes, or will there be mailboxes up and down that road? Will the road be dedicated to the town of Carmel? A name should be provided, or I will be naming it, and nobody wants to live on Carnazza Way. Are you considering a sidewalk? Closer residents could walk to the pool if there were sidewalks there provided for them, so maybe something you want to consider, save some of the parking. Are you considering, provide a sound buffer by the basketball courts and the fire pit? If people are out there, it's kind of close to the house, you may want to try to do some sort of a wall or something to try to break it up a little bit. Will the houses be protected by fire sprinklers? I don't think they're required to. I was just wondering if you were going to. Are the terraces at the rear of each of the houses at grade? Will they be 12 inches from the ground to the top of them? Because if they do, then you're in the buffer. The setback is required for that purpose. And that's it. The sewer water access easement you provided, I saw that, so that looked good.
Thanks, Mike. Thank you.
Thank you.
Since this is the first time in front of the board, would you please give us a overview?
Sure.
And one other thing I'd like to include in the future is, I'm a little concerned about the visual impact. You know, we've all heard this story with other buildings that we see from Route 6. We'd like to see a rendering of what it would look like.
Sure, yeah, I'll get into that. So, Community Board, Zach Pearson with Inside Engineering, Surveying and Landscape Architecture, here on behalf of the applicant, NELSE LLC. As the staff had mentioned, this is a subdivision. There's 4 existing lots out there. We're proposing 3. On lot 3, 50 condos are proposed with a town road, 33 attached, 17 singles. Proposed town road off of Seminary Hill Road with an emergency access to Albano Way. Did note that Mike did note all the variances. Utility-wise, we will be looping the water main from Seminary Hill Road through the site, to connect to Mechanic Street, provides redundancy to the town system. Also, there's an internal loop as well to avoid a dead end. Sewer connection would be to the sewer main in Seminary Hill Road, and stormwater would be in accordance with DEP, DEC, Town Code, 25 DEC too, Rich, the new stuff, good stuff. We did provide an expanded EAF, as Pat had mentioned. There was a visual analysis in there performed by Tim Miller Associates. They did fly balloons. There was renderings. There's cross sections in that packet that were provided, including a tree assessment of the existing trees in the area around the development that will stay. We are, to grade that road in. There's significant earthwork that has to happen to get the road at the percentage that we have it to meet town code. So the top of that hill kind of does come down 20 feet. So the trees around the outside, which are 30 plus feet, do stay to kind of buffer some of that. Again, that's all provided in that expanded EAF that was provided. Again, traffic's in there, school discussions, all those things. Just to touch briefly, we did have a preliminary meeting with the fire department. We showed them the plan as it's presented to you guys tonight. They had a few comments on it, and we were able to address those and get them on the plan. One was access during construction. They wanted to know where the hydrants were. There's an existing one on Seminary Hill Road, and we provided one kind of midway point and all the way up at the end. They were pleased with the access to and through the site. We did show a turning study of the fire truck around the cul-de-sac. I don't know if they've since reviewed it, but what was the other thing? Oh, we did talk to them about access around the back of the units, and they were pleased that it was at grade at the back of those units, and it wasn't just, like 5 feet and dropped off. There was enough of a pad there for them to be able to access the units if need be with a ladder. So that's kind of a general overview of the project.
You open it up to,
Aware that you were seeking a variance for the distance?
Between the buildings?
Yeah, we did mention that to them.
Okay.
Yes.
a variance between the units?
50 feet is required between units, between clusters of units.
Right, so
Okay, yes.
And if
And
you
they have
remember, we've granted, or the zoning board has granted relief on that for other large projects.
Okay.
So they're seeking, but my point being, fire department access behind the building, they still need to get behind the building, so.
Yeah. Want to open it up to the board?
I thought we agreed you weren't going to build those little connectors.
Connector. Oh, between the units? Yeah, we'll sort that out.
Because it's, actually, if you're trying to carry a propane tank to your gas grill that's allowed in the back of the unit, it's not allowed on the deck, but you can put it on the patio. You would have to either go through your building to get it or carry it around. Nobody's going around, so they're going to carry it through, which defeats the purpose.
Yeah.
So if we leave the openings, people can walk right through. Even if you just did a connection on top, a roof connection of some sort, that'd be fine, but.
Okay.
And the fire department, if they have to get to the middle, they don't want to have to pull all the way around to get to the middle back. They can go
Yeah.
right through the split in the buildings.
Good point. Excellent point. Vicky, you had a question?
Yeah, are these rental units or
No.
market value for sale?
Market for sale.
For sale.
Yeah, the target is really, moderately priced single units. We're looking to fit a need here in town, so.
I have a few questions. Echoing, Craig, your comment about the visual view on the view shed, I'll call it. It was hard for me to, when I looked at the materials, it was hard for me to look at the balloon test and imagine a row of buildings. And I wondered if there was a way for you to provide some representation other than just the balloon test of what this is going to look like from these various perspectives.
We can certainly go back to
Yeah,
it.
and Zach, the balloon, it's deceptive. There's nothing for a frame of reference for the balloon. Is the balloon 6 inches wide or 12 feet wide? You can't tell that.
Sure.
Ordinarily, we're present when you do the balloon test, so maybe we want to do it again, particularly if the leaves come down in a couple of weeks. Do it again and invite us out.
Sure.
I
How
think
much
that might
notice do you guys, just go through rows?
Go
to get-
through
Go through rows.
To get you guys notice?
And again, the reason I think we need to focus on the aesthetic issues is because we're still living with the fallout of Pulte. And that was one of the probably bigger mistakes the town made with respect to visual impacts. And this is right nearby, so we've got to make sure we're not running into the same issue. As Zach indicated, they're lowering the site. That alone may be sufficient to deal with this, but we really have to see it. And the rent and the visual impact stuff that was provided was very generalized to your point, Mr. Chairman, we need to see sort of renderings superimposed on the site, instead of the yellow lines that indicate there may be a building behind the trees. It's,
And not only that, Pat, is we're also the Architecture Review Board. So we're down the line, we're gonna wanna see what these buildings are gonna look like, roofing, colors.
Yeah, there was some preliminary stuff
Yeah.
provided in the
Yeah, I
packet,
saw
but
that.
we can
Yeah.
certainly advance that as
Yeah.
we're down the road.
And I had a comment about that. When I looked at the renderings, what immediately came to mind are the comments that we gave on the development by the hospital. We were very careful to break up the colors so that it's not just one long row of houses all with the same colors. Some architectural embellishments. It went to our architect for comments, and maybe that's something that would be done here as well. And then the other thing we did on that development was, and I remember making the comment, I personally would like to see landscaping in terms of trees in front of the buildings to break up the line of sight. Trees that will grow up and, shade. The contrast is the development, what is it, Arch Acres, the neighboring development, that,
Pulte Homes.
is that the one on Mechanic Street?
Yep. No, RPK.
Okay, so when you look at the ones on Mechanic Street, it's just a row of houses, there's no landscaping, it's all one color. That's what, personally, I would not like to see happen.
I also have a few concerns. I don't know if I'm putting the cart ahead of the horse here, but with Seminary Hill Road there, I know that there were studies done for the intersections, but Seminary Hill going south from there, it's a little bit narrow and windy. What kind of extra traffic are we expecting there from this?
Yeah, there was a traffic report in the study. It was not significant increase. And there were site distance improvements at the entrance to allow for the.
yeah, so Nick, what the traffic study was basically concluding that the intersection levels of service won't really change because there's fairly low levels of service there today. It really didn't look at the geometry of the intermediate road between the intersection and the driveway. So that may be something we would want to look at if there is currently an unsafe condition and we're adding even a couple of trips to that or vehicles to that, maybe there's an improvement that can be done. Just like they're doing site distance improvements at the driveway, maybe the same thing happens in the right-of-way down the road.
Yeah.
And there'll also be buses, right? So you have all that other traffic that'll be there that doesn't exist now for 50 homes, so.
I have a question. As you enter, first building on the right, first building on the left, can they be moved closer to the entrance, shifting down? And the reason I'm asking for that is that, and I understand the layout, to optimize what you want to, how many units you want to get in there, but it still, to me, looks pretty close to a straight road, which I'm not a big fan of. So if you could shift those buildings closer to the entrance and then put a little bit more of a curve?
These ones here?
Yes. I'm just looking to get more of a curve in the road so you're not just looking down a straight road of houses.
Well, it does go uphill, so you're kind of going up and peeling off. So it's not, when you do,
More
when you
so
see the,
peeling off.
yeah, when you see the balloon, like, when you see the site in the balloon test, it does go up and peel back. I mean, we did add, the islands in here for interest. This, we've got stormwater in here, the two stormwater basins here, so it'd be a little difficult to shift things down and kind of eliminate some of that treatment.
What about on the other side? That's stormwater also?
That's stormwater also, yeah, the dark green, stormwater, all the dark greens.
I see what you mean. It's almost like if you start pulling up into that road, you can see 90% of the homes. I see what Anthony means, it's.
And the balloon test's a little deceptive because it's based on the existing grade and you're changing the grade, so that's why the rendering of what would be in the future is helpful for us.
Okay. It's certainly something we can entertain.
Yeah.
Like,
No,
and we
my
understand your
thought.
point.
I mean, I'm a fan of the island on the cul-de-sac, that's my personal preference. Living on a cul-de-sac and getting almost snow in front of my house, so that,
Yeah.
I do like
Right,
it.
but the highway superintendent doesn't like them because in about 2 minutes, in one snowfall, it goes away.
But those two houses at the end, I feel for them.
I live on a cul-de-sac. I live on a
Get a little
cul-de-sac.
snow.
I live on a cul-de-sac myself, and I try to get the plow guys to just go the opposite direction around the cul-de-sac to plow it to the inside. Doesn't work. Oh, no. No. Nope. That's the biggest.
Pull in, veer to the right, curve, come completely around, put your snow where nobody lives.
They will not do it. Yeah.
That's not happening at 2 o'clock in the
So I
morning.
appreciate the effort.
But it's certainly something you're gonna have to look at now with that cul-de-sac, is where is snow gonna go? 'Cause, right, you've heard it, you've made the complaint yourself, or the observation, and, as did Anthony, so.
Once it's built, it's too late, where
Oh,
the
yeah.
snow's gonna go.
Yep.
Yeah, and forget about the plantings in the middle, it's, even if you had no plantings in the middle, where's that snow going? You know, you're pushing up a pretty big hill, that's a lot of snow that's got, well, it'll all be pushed off to the side, but there's a lot that ends up there, so.
Yeah, even if you had a little bit of a break at the end between some of the houses, that they could leave snow piles.
Yeah, snow
It would be a
storage
little
area.
tough right there.
Yep.
And again, the highway super is gonna have to look at this. He's not a fan of he's not a fan of the islands in the cul-de-sac, nor the islands on the way up. I think you have islands going up the road. Again, more reason for that stuff to then disappear, because I guarantee you, first snowfall, you will lose half of that. Why put it in? Because then the town, if it's a town road, then the town has to replace it. And what the town will do is take the whole damn thing out. So why spend that money when you don't have to?
So that
If
goes,
it's a town road.
that goes back to, is it a private road or a town?
I don't think we've ever taken a road in a cul-de-sac we've taken, but not in the middle of a development like this. A multifamily development.
These have always
I don't
been
think it's-
private roads, so something to be discussed.
Yeah.
So we want to hear from Highway.
The other thing is, they should design it. We've had this issue with another development where we weren't taking the roads. They should design it to town code in case it ever has to go to the town, right? Or they have to then do a road improvement district, which is gonna cause those homeowners grief. So,
We've seen that.
you know, so, design it with the 12-inch base and the 3 and 2 and 2, whatever the hell it is that I normally do. Do it that way. Therefore, whether it's private, again, you choose whatever you want. It's your money, right? It's your design, it's your project. You don't have to design it to town code if you're not dedicating it to the town, or if it's not going to be dedicated to the town. But for the future, because 50 years from now, those homeowners will go, well, we don't want to do this anymore. And the town will go, okay, we'll take it. Then it's a whole different ballgame. So if we do it right the first time, then it gets done, it is what it is.
Understood.
Good discussion. We need a motion to declare lead agency. Vicki, you wanna?
I will make the motion to declare the planning board the lead agency for this project.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Good discussion, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is Cass subdivision, 60 Mexico Lane. Mike?
The necessary variances were granted by the zoning board of appeal and are noted on the plat. It was for lot area, rear yard on lot 1, and lot 2, lot area. And lot 1 was the existing house. There was nothing that was controllable.
Thank you. Rich?
So similar comments to my last time, so provide a signed seal license survey of the property. It does not contain information regarding areas for open space. Subdivision plans are refined. Elements missing in section 131.13 should be incorporated. Following, with regards to the development of lot 2, the applicant should provide a separate subdivision plat. General comments, standard referrals, Mahopac and Mahopac Falls Fire Department would be the only difference. Excuse me. State DEC, DEP for stormwater, depending on area of disturbance. DOH for well and stormwater and septic. The new 2025 Paul regulations are coming out for the construction permits, so make sure you incorporate those. Your SWIP needs to have a whole bunch of info that's in this memo. And that's what I got.
And Pat?
So when we first saw this, Mr. Chairman, if you remember, these are undersized lots. They got the variance for them, but there's also septic systems and wells. There's not a lot of space left over on these lots, so as designed, it's that and nothing else, basically, based on those constraints. So Rich, I think, has confirmed that those are all suitable locations, but there's going to be a condition of approval that that house is going in that exact location, that driveway's in that exact location, because there's just not a lot of flexibility
So
left.
given that, then Rich has approval that a septic and wells will be.
Yep.
Well, health department does.
Rich
And
doesn't
actually,
approve sewer and water.
We have finished our testing.
Do
So
they
it
need to
has-
be 100 feet apart?
Pardon me?
Is that the number? Do they need to be 100 feet apart, the well? and
That's the
septic?
separation issue I'm talking about.
Right,
So-
that's what Pat's referring to, and that goes to the county for review and approval.
Yes, and we've gone through that process. We finished our testing.
And
with-
the reason why Rich is involved in that, because everything else, all the grading, site improvements relate to that. So it's complicated in that they're undersized lots and there's not a lot of room. That's my only point about this. So the approval is for this and
That's correct.
No pools, no tennis courts, no chicken coop.
Well, they could get a pool in, but no. The septic needs to go where we're showing it. That's where we plan for it. That's where we test it. And the well fits in where it does because of other septic areas in the area. So that gets locked in.
And we can go to public hearing on this, Mr. Chairman.
So 2 lots, 1 lot that the existing house is on, the second lot to be built by?
Correct, by the owner.
By your client?
Yes, and actually, his daughter is going to move into that house because it's going to be a larger house. And they just had their first child, and they are planning on having more. And they don't fit in the first house, the existing house.
Well, be interesting to hear from the public. This should go in front of, do we have a motion to schedule a public hearing?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to schedule the public hearing.
Second?
All in favor?
Thank you.
Thank you.
There's a special way to do it.
Okay.
Back again,
Shalaka Development,
I didn't have to
Not the
walk
first
far.
day, but it's my first job.
yes. Mike?
Full 47.
Same comment, all the necessary variances were granted by the zoning board of appeals and are noted on the plat. There was lot 1 width, lot 2 width, lot 1 frontage, and lot 2 frontage. They tried to split it down the middle as best as possible.
Yeah. Rich?
This is pretty much the same comments as last time and the last applicant. They provided copies of driveway easements, so it's up to planning council to review if that's acceptable. As subdivision plans are refined, missing elements by section 131.13 should be incorporated. Referrals to Mahopac Fire Department, Putnam County DOH, Carmel Highway Department, all the standard fare for that. Again, 2025, they're having the new construction permit, so your stormwater needs to incorporate that. And that's it. So it's mostly the stormwater stuff, which Paul is aware of, and it's fairly straightforward.
Pat?
And straightforward, they have the variances. The one thing that's a little tricky on this is the common driveway leaves the property, goes onto the neighbor's property and out to the road, so Joe's got to make sure the easement's satisfactory with respect. That's the only quirky thing with respect to this.
Wasn't this the property that there was a trailer as you're going through the, when you enter the property, it turns off to the right when you, wasn't there a trailer on your left-hand side there?
Mr. Chairman, I don't believe that there was. This particular property had a house that was on it that burnt down.
Right, there was a
It was,
fire.
when you go all the way up to the right, I don't believe there was a trailer, but there was some excavation done, and then a whole bunch of trees were taken down by the prior owner.
I was
So
up
there was
there
a notice of
months ago,
violation.
Early on in this process.
Flat trailer?
You know, it was months ago when I was there.
There could be.
Previous owner.
Well, you need to use the microphone.
Come up, introduce yourself, and use the mic.
Yeah, I think there is right down by the road. I think there was.
Richard Schlago, I'm one of the owners for one of those lots that we're trying to subdivide. But what you're referring to is the previous owner, Frenkel. Once you get up to the top, he had a trailer as soon as you get to the top on the right side.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
That's gone.
Trying to
We do have an RV there just because, whenever we do, go up there with the kids, if it's hot, we go in the RV. It's a portable RV, it's not.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks for the clarification. So we need a public hearing on this one. Do you have a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to schedule a public hearing for, and I will screw up the name, Shalku Development?
Schlaku.
Schlacko, it was close.
Second? Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Thanks,
much.
Paul.
last applicant over here.
Doesn't seem like the last applicant is here. No,
doing Tompkins?
No, I'm not doing Tompkins, okay? Oh, no, I called you about Tompkins just to make sure.
Check your drawings.
I had called Richard today about Tompkins just to make sure that the plans that they were submitting to you still showed the easement for drainage crossing their property. And it does, and I think it's probably one of your comments, that they have never filed the proper paperwork to get that easement.
Well, it is an extension.
I've got nothing to do with,
He's not representative.
no, I'm not representing, my concern is because I've got Greenpoint Tree Service on the other side of the street, and you've got a site plan approval for Evans Septic, and Lee Schultz wants me to do site plans for him. There's a drainage course that crosses underneath Old Route 6, and the pipe extends through the Tompkins property, but there's no easement around that pipe, and the pipe needs to be replaced. So
Now's the time.
there needs to be a formal,
well, I think we're
Yeah.
gonna hold over this,
but I'm not
70 over
involved.
6.
Step away now, Paul, you've said too much.
Just a quick question though on this before we go. So, Pat, this is something that goes back to 2016, right?
There was litigation, C was involved in cleaning up the property.
If you remember?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of history here.
Okay.
So this is not an automatic, given approval because they asked for it. There's stuff here.
All right.
So, and they had a FEMA approval for this, right? So it's in a floodplain zone. Paul did work on it, so not to throw him under the bus since he's left. That's why I asked him if he was here for Tompkins. So he had worked on it initially. He had gotten that FEMA floodplain permit. They've gotten all those approval. They've maintained them, I think. His question refers to, there's a pipe there. Now, whether or not that easement is there is something now we're gonna have to look into. The applicant had gotten an easement approved by the town board to do work in the wetlands, to do a mitigation, which is on the Carmel Sewer District 2 property. That paperwork has not been filed yet. That's in my memo, and I've called those folks, and I've called them a couple of times this year. They have not gotten me the paperwork. They said they're gonna get it, so I don't know quite what's going on, but that piece of the puzzle is still missing, which is important because the town board, allowed that to happen. So now there's a second easement that's being brought up by the neighbors across the street because there's a pipe there, so.
So wait, they filed a request for an extension?
Yes.
So I would recommend they hold it over.
Yeah.
I think the board has some
No,
questions with respect to that.
Exactly. I agree. All right, so Pat, you'll tell Rose that we're holding over 70 Old Route 6? Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Thank you.